Hey everybody, welcome. Let's give it a minute for the stream to get out there. Welcome in Canada. Glad you made it. Glad you made it all the way here. Okay, let's get started. Welcome to Moment of Clarity. Welcome to the stage 4 of the American Empire. It's like cancer. We're in stage 4. That means it's getting really good, getting really exciting. Things are getting fun now. For those of you who wanted to hear my take on some of the big news of this week, such as Trump's taxes, Trump getting COVID, the ridiculous dumpster fire shit show that was the presidential debate. If you wanted any of those things, it's all at youtube.com/moment of clarity. I did videos earlier on those topics. The debate discussion will actually be coming out of Redacted tonight in just a few hours. So go to youtube.com/redacted tonight for that one. I hope your video is not bumpy. It's looking bumpy on my end, but it looks like it's lagging a little on my end, but hopefully you guys have a better stream than I'm seeing. But anyway, so for all those, so I don't think I'm avoiding those topics, Trump getting COVID, Trump's taxes, debate, that's all at youtube.com/moment of clarity or the Redacted tonight that comes out tonight. So, someone just asked about FBI. Let's talk about the FBI. Let's talk about the latest McCarthyism, the new Cold War we're in the middle of. There's a new accusation out there, and it goes to feed in to all of the neo-McCarthyism that's swirling around. The let's red bait everyone, let's accuse everyone of being connected to Russia, being a Kremlin agent, and therefore nothing they say matters. And your FBI needs to do this because the state, the ruling elite, largely, it's obviously coming less from the Republican side, but this latest thing is from Pompeo's, State Department, I believe, as well. So it's not just the Democrats, but they're perhaps the ones pushing this more. The ridiculous Russia gate that has now collapsed, that we now know involved, some fucking clickbait farms putting up photos of Jesus arm wrestling Satan, and somehow that is what made people vote for Trump. But they have their latest one. And the Gray Zone does a great job of breaking this down and revealing how ridiculous it is, what a sham it is, how soft the evidence is, if you can even call it evidence. And so I wanted to go through these articles. I'm going to pull them up on the screen in a minute. I also am going to go through some of the other things I have going on my screen. You'll get to see my screen, and don't worry, I'll blur out the porn a little bit. I think I won't show you. I won't show you the worst stuff on the screen. This is the because I'm going to show you various tabs. This is the part where I accidentally pull up the tab that shows that I'm watch Teletubbies during the day at work. So hopefully you'll ignore that part. But all right, so let's get to the Gray Zone article as to the latest FBI new Cold War, Russia's gonna get you accusations, which I fucking love. Let's see here. Sharing the Gray Zone. All right. Hopefully you can see that now. So serious, this is by Ben Norton. Ben Norton, great journalist. You should look him up if you don't know him. Serious questions remain about the shady Peacedata website blamed on Russian trolls. Now, for those of you who don't know this, the U.S. government intelligence agencies have initiated a series of smear campaigns relying on false innuendo to suggest independent left-wing American media outlets are connected to Russia. Now, they've been doing that for years. That's been going on for years, right? Not just me, but, all kinds of independent and left-wing voices have been accused of being connected to Russia, part of Russia, everything from Bernie Sanders, Jill Stein, all these outlets, basically any outlet that is questioning the U.S. government take on things, the U.S. Empire's view of the way to see the world. If you go against that propaganda, you question that propaganda, then you are clearly a tool of Russia. You couldn't possibly be someone who just wants peace, who just wants us to stop blowing people up around the world. So let's see if I can find the most important parts. But Well, Ben Norton first talks about how this is now also being used as they're doing false flags. And in fact, they were caught in 2018. The U.S. government analysts hired by the Senate Intelligence Committee to produce reports on Russian interference. Those same people were involved in a false flag operation. This was revealed in the New York Times. So this is not, this isn't coming from me. It's not even coming just from the gray zone. This is fucking New York Times. Of course, they tried to, bury it in the back or whatever. But the people with the report saying, here's how you know Russia's involved, they were also involved in a false flag against, I think it was Roy Moore or someone, one of these Senate campaigns down south, I think, or governor campaign, I can't quite remember. But anyway, they basically admitted, or they were forced to admit, that they had manufactured all these Russian bots to follow the opposition candidate so that they could say Russia was trying to get this Republican pedophile elected. So they had manufactured it entirely. And it became so evident and so obvious that even the New York Times reported on it. Okay, so let's see. At the center of this intrigue, suspicious website called Peacedata. Now, I don't know about you, but I've never heard of Peacedata. But that shows how desperate the FBI is to reveal these things when they're, got these accusations against websites you never heard of. But let's just say you have heard of it, okay? The FBI and a Pentagon-backed private intelligence firm called Graphica claim the page is a Russian government vehicle for pushing disinformation in English, but there's no tangible evidence. Shit, my light turned off. There we go. There's no tangible. How animated do I have to get to keep this fucking sensor light on? That's something I don't understand how sensor lights work. Because I can sit here and go, and the fucking thing will still turn off. And I'm like, what do you want from me? How animated do you want me to be? Anyway, hold on one second. Maybe this will help. Move that out of the way. Maybe the sensor will see me more. Anyway, this website Peacedata, there's no tangible evidence, only a statement posted in comically broken English that sounds much more like someone trying to impersonate a Russian than sophisticated Kremlin operatives. Peacedata was completely unknown before it was identified by the FBI as the heart of a supposed Russian disinformation scheme. The website has next to no following, just 197 likes on Facebook, and negligible web traffic. Okay, so not only is it nearly unheard of, but at the top of the article, they have a photo from Peacedata. And here are the types of articles that Peacedata has on there. Mainstream international media turns a blind eye to suffering in Yemen. The prison system around the world needs reform. It has no place in democratic nations in current state. Will Trump pardon Edward Snowden? Overfunding of U.S. military is driving climate change and white supremacist culture of war crimes. So many of these articles, by the way, are just reposted from other sites that you and I respect, like The Gray Zone, like Jacobin, and some others. So really, what is so horrible about this site? It reposts articles that sound super legit. That's what the FBI is like. We got you. So he goes on to say most of whose reporting was lifted by Peacedata from a veritable who's who of independent media outlets that the U.S. government would not be favorably disposed to. They comprise the very few platforms that provide an alternative, factual, and highly critical perspective on U.S. foreign policy. Among them is this outlet, The Gray Zone. So I'll come back to the second, but this is the FBI probably created this site. Now, I don't have any evidence of that, but let's say even if they didn't create this site, this is a site that shows you a bunch of very important articles that are critical of U.S. foreign policy. And the U.S. is like, well, that can't be legit. Well, let's malign all of these legitimate sources like the Gray Zone, like other outlets, Jacobin, various other outlets that are pushing peace, that are questioning U.S. empire. Let's malign them all by saying, look, this is Kremlin. This is Russia. Russia did this. Russia's trying to get you to read the Gray Zone. And so they do this, guilt by association. that can then tarnish any independent media that is outside of what is the allowable corporate thought, right? What you see on CNN, what you see on Fox News, that's allowable corporate thought. Anything outside of that has to be maligned and suppressed and pushed back. And it's not been enough. They have maligned us and suppressed us on all of the social media, big social tech platforms, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Google, search results, Gmail. But that hasn't been enough to truly stop people from reading the gray zone, to truly stop people like you from watching this video. So the next step is to pretend they have some sort of connection to the Kremlin or whatever, that the gray zone has some sort of connection to the Kremlin, simply because this random site no one's ever heard of that has 197 likes on Facebook is a Russian platform. Now, even if it were, which it seems quite obvious it's not, even if it were, that doesn't make the gray zone some sort of Russian disinformation campaign. In fact, the gray zone is a highly legitimate, highly well-researched website. But they do this guilt by association garbage in order to get you to believe crap like that. But there's one other part that I love in this. Well, also he says Facebook, Twitter, and major Western corporate media outlets eagerly bit at FBI's claim, amplifying the unsubstantiated narrative that Peacedata was part of a dangerous Kremlin operation to help Donald Trump win the U.S. presidential election by turning progressives away from the Democratic Party and Joe Biden. The narrative was contradicted in several glaring ways. For one, a mere 5% of Peacedata's total articles were about the U.S. election. 5%, representing just about 35 posts on a page that has 197 Facebook likes. And here you get to the people that actually write for Peacedata. Now, remember I mentioned earlier, most of the Peacedata articles are just stolen from other sources. But there are, I guess, some people that write for Peacedata. Those allegedly recruited by Peacedata to write as freelancers were highly suspect as well. The most high-profile former contributor to the website, who was interviewed by the New York Times after the supposed Russian active measure was exposed, happens to be an actor for hire who supports Joe Biden, has admitted to severe mental illness, and has previously collaborated with the FBI. He publicly claims to be a black man trapped in a white man's body and writes about his visions of aliens. I'm just going to let that sit there for a minute. This site, the people they have actually write for the site, that's not articles stolen from other sites, is a FBI collaborator who thinks he's a black man trapped in a white man's body. If this doesn't scream FBI fucking FBI, scam, FBI created this website so that they could malign all independent, anti-war, anti-Wall Street exploitation, two-party corporate shit show websites. I don't know what it is. This just seems like it must be created by the FBI or other state actors to make you think Russia created the gray zone or something like that. Anyway, even if that's not the case, I will admit I have no evidence of that. It's just a suspicion. But even if that's not the case, this is a site that's seen by nobody that mainly reposts great independent articles and occasionally has someone write for them who is an alien obsessed guy who thinks he's a black man in a white man's body. And how would you even know that? I would like to talk to that guy. What exactly drove you to think, yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a black guy in me? At what point did you, Was it because you were pulled over a lot by the cops and you were like, I just don't seem white? The cops keep pulling me over. There's something wrong here. Anyway, amazing. But also he's an FBI collaborator. He's an FBI stooge. I mean, this guy is basically working for the FBI. So this seems very much an FBI set up this website. So, and this serves another purpose beyond just its an ability to trash those websites that are actually giving you the truth. It also serves to continue the whole McCarthyism, red baiting, new Cold War paradigm, talking points. I mean, at this point, it's become such a massive just industry to say all these, Russia's influencing the election, anything Trump, any votes Trump gets must be coming from Russia. It's become such a massive industry that they need to keep it going. They can't give up on it. If they were to because we saw Russiagate fall apart, right? I think anybody, if you're watching this, you're smart enough to know how ridiculously it fell apart. And look, I hate Donald Trump. I think he's a fucking sociopath, just like I think Joe Biden is. But Russiagate was a shit show that fell apart. It was largely just an attempt to try and say that Donald Trump's win wasn't legit, when of course his win was legit, except for all of the purged voters. But the Democrats shot themselves in their own foot by rigging their own primaries. So if you're going to rig elections, then motherfuckers, you shouldn't be surprised when the election's rigged against you as well. Actually, in a separate news story, I'm going to get into some voter suppression that's going on right now as well. But so they created this whole Russia thing. They needed a new Cold War. They also need a new boogeyman, right? So you all get in line, because fear is the main way to get Americans to think that nationalism is what really controls us. At the end of the day, you have to be nationalistic. It has to be all about America. You can't actually look across a border, an imaginary border, and say, I might have a lot in common with the workers of, let's say, Spain or France or Germany or the average people in Canada or Mexico. That is very dangerous to the ruling elite. So they want you to look at them and say, I am different from them. I am a different entity. I live in this country. They're in that country. I must hate them. I must have this guttural nationalism that rules over every decision I make, that is so influential to who I am, and my ego and my everything is wrapped up in it. My soul is defined. You motherfucking censor lights. God, shit. Fuck. And it interrupted my rant too. I blame the FBI for the censor lights. I'm pretty sure, because when I put those censor lights in, I was pretty sure the guy he had an FBI cap on. So I'm pretty sure they were like, we'll just drive him insane by turning off his lights every once in a while. It's like a reverse gaslighting. It's kind of gas de-lighting without the gas. I mean, they do have gas, but that wasn't FBI. That could have been the FBI. Now that I think about it. Anyway, where the fuck was I? Oh, yeah. So they need this nationalism, right? They need this. You got to fear the great other. Because if you don't fear the great other, whether it's Russia, Iran, terrorists in general, Al-Qaeda, China, something's going to get you, right? Something over there, out there, that you can't see, that you can't walk up to and go, this isn't really what I thought it was, that you can't really investigate, that you can't really get involved in, that you can't see each day on the train, on the metro, on the bus. They need a great other that is too far away for you to actually understand it. And they need you to be afraid of it so that you fucking get in line and you obey. And that is how it's how the systems work for a long time. And when they run out of a great other, they create a new one, right? So they really didn't have one in the 90s. And it got very bad for them. Military spending in the U.S. actually went down for a change during the 90s. It actually decreased. And they needed a new great other, a great object to fear, and it became terrorists. And now we're into Russia and China and Iran. We're back with that again, right? They're gonna fucking get you, man. They're under you. They're under your desk right now. They're in your pants. They're in your fucking pants. So they need that great other for you to be afraid and stay in line. And so this serves that as well for the FBI. And by the way, I think this actually fits very much with the FBI. It's been proven, you can look up articles, that 90, because they have to give their numbers or whatever, that 90-some%, I think it's actually 97% of FBI arrests and charges against terrorists within the U.S. or terrorist plotting or whatever, extremists, 97% is connected to the FBI. It is either a form of entrapment, or it's FBI collaborators, or it's just FBI fucking agents working with somebody. But basically, the FBI finds largely mentally ill people that are really fucking out of it online, and they pressure them or help them to create some sort of terrorist plot, and then they swoop in and arrest them for going along with it. And that is most of the arrests that the FBI does. I mean, you go look at the numbers. It's fucking incredible. So this is very similar, right? If the FBI were to either create or find a website like Peacedata and say, look, we found them, the Russian agents, it goes to legitimize the entire story that Russia's trying to get you and that they're lying to you and all this shit. So yet again, with this story, we see, honestly, how many of you are afraid of the articles that the guy writes who thinks he's a black man in a white man's body and sees a lot of aliens? Now, were the aliens involved with putting the black man inside of you? Or is that separate things? Or are these the same? Or did the aliens come up to you as a black man and wrap you in a white skin? So the aliens put a white guy on the outer side of you, and you were the black man initially. I have a lot of questions for this guy. If anyone can find this guy and get him over email, just let me know, because I'd like to talk to him about how exactly this alien black-white transformation works. Anyway, let's move on to a couple other articles real quick that I think you'll find important. Should I show should we stick on the Russian? Let's stick on the Russian thing for one more story that I'll show you, and then we'll move on to how the election's being rigged. Let's see here. So got to stop the screen, then share the screen. Okay, so this is from LA Progressive, not the LA Times. The LA Times, by the way, the LA Times used to have a lot of good articles that were contradicting the standard government lies and stuff. But the LA Times has largely now been captured by the billionaires and the oligarchs. It was bought out, I think, maybe entirely or largely. And now the LA Times is falling in line with what is acceptable, U.S. empire talking points. For the most part, that doesn't mean you can't find an article here and there, but they used to do a lot of good stuff. LA Progressive is different. LA Progressive does a lot of good articles. So this is about how the discredited Russian bounty story lives on. And I don't know if I'm going to read any quotes from this, but I'll read this one. The military says they can't find evidence to support it, yet the New York Times and others have not repudiated the reports or issued retractions. So for those of you who don't remember, I mean, these stories fall away so quickly that it's possible you're already starting to forget this. But the Russian bounty story was this. It was just a few weeks ago. So the hilarious story that the U.S. And I covered it at the time, but that the U.S. That Russia is paying the Taliban to shoot at American troops or something, which the Taliban's been fighting us for 18, 20 years. Like, they don't need to be paid to shoot at American troops. On top of that, the U.S., it has been proven, and again, you can go read the articles, the U.S. pays the Taliban. I don't know if we still are, but for a long time, for many years, we were paying the Taliban to let our trucks through so we could fight the Taliban. Because on these mountain pass roads in Afghanistan, we actually needed the Taliban's help to get through. Otherwise, they could just attack us and we fucking couldn't go fight them. So literally, we would bribe certain elements of the Taliban so we could go fight the Taliban. That is how bizarre and insane this fucking Kafka-esque war in the middle of nowhere is. Not to insult Afghanistan. I'm sure to you it's not the middle of nowhere. I just meant for your average American. It's the middle of nowhere. But so we've been paying the Taliban for years. That's nothing new. And then we said, the Russians they're paying to shoot U.S. troops. Oh my God. and you can go watch the frothing at the mouth, fucking blood oozing out the ears. Rachel Maddow reports about this, about how this is horrifying. And I think Lawrence O'Donnell showed like images of dead U.S. troops on his screen, or someone on MSNBC, and said, this is who Russia's been killing. And the people that were showing on the screen had no connection to this story whatsoever. They were just U.S. troops that had been killed. And so they just put them on the screen and go, look at what Russia's done. Oh, my God. And, of course, those stories happened right as Trump said he was going to withdraw 10,000 troops from Germany, and U.S. troops, and thousands of other troops from Afghanistan. And immediately this Russian bounty story comes out. We got to keep the troops out there. So he didn't withdraw the troops because this came out. And also it's helping to stop the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which Russia wants with Germany. So they're trying to get in the way. The U.S. is, and actually Mike Pompeo has said that they will do anything to stop that oil pipeline. So it makes sense that they would put out this horse shit. But it's just fallen apart. The story has fallen apart. It was anonymous sources to begin with. No evidence was brought forward. Russia, of course, said it wasn't true, but they've just given nothing that shows that this actually went on. And so this article is a good LA progressive article on just how thoroughly the Russian bounty story has collapsed. Yet the media continues to act like this existed. So they did all this reporting on how it happened, but now they're not doing any reporting on how it's all collapsed. So, I mean, they like to do that. They like to say, oh my God, look at this thing. And then a week later, it all collapses and they never mention it. Now, I'm sure the New York Times has had little retractions or little things here or there, but they know no one's going to see those. That's useful for them. So they know no one's going to see it. They don't even worry about it, that people will actually know that the Russian bounty story has collapsed. And in fact, Joe Biden in the last debates said that he said you to Trump, he said, you haven't even talked about the Russian bounty story. You don't stand up to Putin after he's paying Taliban to shoot U.S. troops. So Biden is continuing to quote from this completely discredited story as if it's true. And I don't know how much he knows, whether he's given a shit to read the follow-ups to see how it's collapsed, but it doesn't matter. It's useful to him. It's useful to all of them. So let's do one more story here about this one's about the elections and about how the voter suppression that's going on. And this is not being talked about in mainstream media. It's really interesting that despite the fact that the Mick Resistance, MSNBC, NPR, all those, they want to say that Trump is trying to delegitimize the election. They want to say that, which he is, and they want to say that Trump's trying to, hurt your faith in the Postal Service, which he is. But they don't actually call out the actual voter suppression, actually how this thing is being rigged, usually, for the most part. And the reason is because they still want you to believe that this election system is 100% legit, that there are no flaws in it, that there's no massive fucking systemic problems with this election system. I covered it endlessly at the last election, how faulty the machines are, how all the suppressions, interstate cross-check, the number of people purged from the rolls, largely people of color are purged from the rolls. You got millions of people that were purged just by interstate cross-check. And, for example, in Michigan, Trump won by 10,000 votes. Interstate cross-check purged 500,000 people from the voter rolls, largely people of color, both Latinx, Black, Asian, and most of that is not talked about on your mainstream so-called liberal outlets. And the reason is because they want you to believe this election system is not fucked. And it truly is in so many ways. And anyway, the latest one, let's show this to you real quick. This is from Greg Palast. Greg Palast, great journalist who has really covered this a lot. He tends to cover more the voter suppression on the general election rather than the primaries. But and you know, I don't need to get into how Bernie was robbed this time around. I mean, I did cover it when it was happening, but Bernie Sanders was robbed yet again. Obama actually called the candidates, Buttigieg and Klobuchar and the others, to tell them to get out of the race and endorse Joe Biden all before Super Tuesday, so that they could make sure to stop Bernie Sanders from winning. And a lot of people pointed out that the two times Obama has gotten involved in politics, really, over this entire time since he's been in the presidency, was to stop Bernie Sanders and to stop the NBA strike. Those are the two, because apparently Obama called the NBA teams and got them to agree to play after one day of striking. So those are the two times Obama has been like, I cannot sit here any longer. I must speak out. I must stop Bernie Sanders, and I must make sure the NBA doesn't have the power of its labor, doesn't show Americans how important the laborers are, the workers are, how they can stop an entire fucking sports industry on a dime, how they can bring a sports industry to its knees if they want to. I got to make sure Americans don't know that, because if they know that, they might think, hey, I bet if we work together in our industry, we could stop them and demand things. So anyway, that's fucking Obama for you, that fucking corporate shill. What a sad piece of shit. But anyway, this is Greg Palast, and this has to do with just Wisconsin, which, as most of you know, is a battleground state. And right now, going on, this was just published a few days ago, the Wisconsin Supreme Court, now Palast is saying, may have chosen the next president. That is, justices heard arguments in a lawsuit that would force the state to remove 129,000 from the voter rolls on grounds they'd moved from their registration addresses. Now, to put that in perspective, 129,000 voters. Like I said, Donald Trump won Michigan by 10,000 votes. He won Wisconsin by not that much last time around. So they're purging 129,000 people for moving. And so here he continues, but a report by the nation's top experts in address verification, including the official licensee of the U.S. Postal Service, says that at least 39 or almost 40,000 movers did not move. The hit list is not only disturbingly wrong, it is suspiciously overweighted with African Americans. What are the odds that 40,000 of the list is completely wrong? And that 40,000, oh, here we go, and that 40,000 doesn't even count people that did move but remained in the same county, meaning they are still entitled to be registered in that county. Given Trump's 2016 Wisconsin victory margin was less than 23,000 votes. So Trump only won by 23,000 votes last time around, and now they're purging 129,000 voters from the rolls for basically nothing. Most of them did not move. At least half of those did not move out of the county. It's probably far more than half. But anyway, I wanted to show you this this map here. So if you can see it, this is the wrongly tagged moved voters versus the percent of black population in Milwaukee County in Wisconsin. Now, so this one on the left is the number of people that were wrongly identified as movers. So the darker the orange, the more people were wrongly identified and purged from the rolls if the Supreme Court in Wisconsin allows it. So very dark area right around here, rather dark here. That's all wrongly purged from the voter rolls. Now we get over here. This is the percent of population that is black in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. What do you notice about these two maps? Right here, heavily black population. Here, still largely black population. And it fits almost perfectly with the number of people purged from the rolls. So they made sure to purge people from these rolls that were coming from areas of Wisconsin that are heavily black areas. This is this is by design. It's not an accident. The Republicans have, at least in this state, have the control of that machinery, and therefore they can they have an easier time doing this type of thing. And obviously, Trump and the Republicans know that black people are far less likely to vote Republican. And I've often said, although I call out the two-party sham system, these are two corporate parties that agree on 90% of the core issues of our country. Although I call them out endlessly, and I will not stop. I fucking go at them every day. But that doesn't mean I don't want a legit election. So if the Republicans are committing an election fraud in a certain sense, I will call that out. When the Democrats have committed election fraud in other senses during their own primary, scamming Bernie Sanders, etc., I will call that out. I'm not going to skip over one or the other. And so I know some people like to, whenever I say, look, the Republicans are purging these voters from the rolls, they go, God damn it, Lee, why are you standing up for the Democrats? It's like, no, I just want a fucking legit election, all right? That's all I want. I want the election to actually count. And as I've said many times, electoral politics should not be your focus all the time. It should not be the thing you spend your nights and days on. It should be something you just do. You just go vote. And the reason is because not voting does nothing. It's something they like. They would love for you not to vote. Furthermore, there's a lot of down ballot races and issues that often are not as rigged or not rigged at all. And you can have a big influence, a much bigger influence on all of those down ballot issues. But anyway, this is incredibly important story. Greg Palast got to the heart of it. His research is often quoted in these lawsuits. Very similar stuff going on in Georgia as well. Here's some more. The Palast Fund reached out to over 700 voters, and we heard the same story again and again. I never moved. Adding to the bias against, so it's also a bias, that's what he's about to say, it's also biased against young people and low-income people. Adding to the bias against low-income and young voters, these junk mail cards. So what he's talking about, which he must have mentioned earlier, is that they send out postcards to people, and they basically say, if you moved, if you didn't move, so if this address is correct, then then let us know, and we'll keep you on the voter rolls. But the problem is no one responds to those fucking postcards. Because it's a fucking postcard. If you get a postcard, what do you do with it? You wipe your ass with it maybe and you throw it out. That is it. No one's sitting there going, only very old people have tons of time on their hand. People over 75 sit at home and go, I got a postcard. Let me see what it says. It says, respond to this if you'd like to remain a voter. Okay, I will now spend the next 5 minutes responding to this, putting a stamp on it, putting it in the post box, all that shit. No one fucking does that. So they send out these postcards to purge people from the rolls. They know you aren't going to respond, and they purge you from the voter rolls. And what ends up happening is people show up to the voting booth on the day of the election, or they send in their votes, and they're thrown out. Or they show up on if they show up in person, then the person at the poll says, you're not on the polls, we don't have your name here. And the guy goes, I swear I'm registered. And they go, okay, here's a provisional ballot. Now, that sounds really great, right? A provisional ballot? Wow. That must mean I get to vote. No, provisional ballots are almost never counted. When they are, it's weeks after the election. Provisional ballots are, if they give you a provisional ballot, just also wipe your ass with it. That one you can wipe your ass with. The postcard you got to send back. But so provisional ballots are garbage. And as I was saying, this is not just against black and brown people. This is against low income and young voters, because young voters are far more likely to move, right? They don't own houses. They're not staying in the same place year after year. They're going to college, etc. They're out on the roads, hooking up with random people, becoming a gigolo, that kind of thing. You know how it is when you're young. And so they're far more likely to move. Same with low income people. Low income people also don't own homes, and they have to move because they get kicked out for evictions or lose their job, or the rent goes up or whatever. And that. So this is all by design. This is by design to purge low income, young, and people of color from the voter rolls. And Greg Palast does an amazing job of presenting this, but he increasingly, by the way, Greg Palast, if you don't know his history, he used to be far more welcome on maybe even occasionally on like MSNBC, but really far more welcome on like the BBC, Guardian. He was on Democracy Now! All the time. Now maybe they have him on Democracy Now! Once or twice, but they rarely have him on anymore because the level of allowable thought has shrunk. The corporate airwaves are even more consolidated. And, the BBC is more owned by the ruling corporate powers than ever before. Same with The Guardian. That's why The Guardian hasn't stood up for Julian Assange at all, fucking ever. I mean, someone tweeted the other day, if you put 1,000 Guardian journalists in a room and let them type on a typewriter for infinity, will they eventually write an article in support of Julian Assange? It's a good question. I don't know. It's possible, but I think it's unlikely. So you have an increasing level of ownership by the corporate elite of these media airwaves. And so Greg Palast, who used to be, he's still a New York Times bestselling author, but who used to be very prevalent on these airwaves, now rarely gets on. So you can go to gregpalast.com. You can read the rest of the article if you'd like. Check your voter registration if you get a chance. And definitely vote, but do not look for voting to save you. Voting's not going to save you. Joe Biden's not going to save us. It's something you do, but it's something that you should not expect to get high-fived for. Just fucking do it and then move on with your day. And the real change in this country is going to come from people uniting, people joining together and demanding change, but also creating the change themselves. Things like mutual aid, things like wildcat strikes at businesses. Things like people unionizing, things like people getting together and making sure that their friends and family and neighbors aren't evicted from their homes. These are all the things that are going to create large-scale change, not fucking voting for a corporate candidate. You can do it, but it's not something you should picture as, you won. I did it. I won. I voted for the next corporate candidate to, slightly change one little thing here or there. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed all of this moment of clarity. Please share it with people. We're heavily suppressed, so any way you can help get it out there. And click subscribe, click the bell next to the subscribe button. That's all at youtube.com/moment of clarity. I'll be doing a live stream where I chat with you guys. I actually deal with your comments, talk to you, and your topics. And that will be with Eleanor Goldfield this Saturday, which is tomorrow, I believe, at 8 p.m. Eastern at youtube.com/moment of clarity. All right. And check out my podcasts, Common Censored and Government Secrets. Okay. Keep fighting.